know. We have several of our board members on here, Nadell, Nancy Nager, Mary Lou Ackerman on there as you guys want. And then a ton of people are sitting across and just helping us all over the place as we get going from here. I'm going to say, even though I know Hiam's going to introduce Brian, I have to say the first time that I met Brian was at the very earliest start of Nurse Innovation at Northeastern. And I remember we hosted this event and Brian was one of our exhibitors. He had a table in the back of the room and it was him and his partner and he explained his product and that was 5 years ago now, Brian. Like I think I think it was 2017. And I'm just super excited when Hiam was like, we got to bring Brian on and have you tell your story because back in that day, as we all know, nobody was doing anything and the world just seems to light off. And you and Paul Coignet and even, Debbie Toomey and I mean, even Hiam, I don't know if you guys know Hiam's story, all had been back in the day before people understood why nursing should be innovative and that path and how hard it is. We're just so excited to have you here and tell us about it. So I'm going to turn it over to Hiam Nadell. If you guys don't know her, she's the first director of Nursing Innovations. I always say it wrong, Nursing Innovations, she'll explain it exactly. MGH Ever by Nursing. So just really excited to do that and turn it over and look forward to hearing you speak, Brian.
Thanks, Rebecca. I have to say, it's really, really my pleasure to introduce Brian Mohika, RN, who's the CEO and founder of CathWear, but he's also now a very proud member of SONSIEL. So the big hit, he's joined the tribe. So I've been following Brian now for a few years and stuff, and LinkedIn suddenly started like blowing up with Brian and he's like everywhere and people congratulating him and you can see his success story. And then suddenly he's writing books and I'm like, wow. So we got to bring him on and really listen to his progress and things. And really getting to know Brian, he's also a really cool human being. And I think he's going to share a lot of the good and bad and the resiliency too, to get through all of that he's done. So I'll just turn it over and we want to hear about his journey. Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, everyone. And Rebecca, I remember it clearly when we met in Boston. That prototype that I had on the mannequin was the only one that we had at that time. And it's been a long road. And one thing that I always try to emphasize with anyone that is really trying to make any type of impact is that it takes a long time. In 2012, I had the vision for CathWear in the operating room. It's 2021. I personally haven't made a dollar from it yet. Obviously, the money goes back into the company and we reinvest it. And I had a misconception of what it was that I was doing. If somebody would have told me in 2012, hey, in 2021, you're still going to be broke, I'd be like, no way, I'm going to be a millionaire. And I think, I know that that's a horrible misconception that anyone that has innovated anything needs to always educate the other ones that are coming behind us to know it's truly a marathon. What's been motivating for me is the patient's response, right? Because it's not about us at the end of the day. It's not about if we're successful or we're not successful, or if the project is successful or if the project fails. It's about the patient. It's always about the patient. And as nurses, we can never take our eyes off of the prize, which is meeting their needs. And, I feel the calls for CathWear when they come in on our website, because I know that when a nurse picks up the phone and a patient hears that there's a nurse on the other side, it puts them at ease with when they're going through whatever type of struggle. There's value in that title of nurses, and something that I think Rebecca had said. Even if you don't innovate, or so, I think it was the young lady that was speaking before, Rebecca. Even if you aren't the one that has solely created the invention, anything associated with healthcare has to have a nurse on there. There's value in what we bring. We've been the #1 trusted profession for 20 years. There's value in that. When a plumber invents a device, it's kind of like, all right, well, what does it do? And who else has done it? And I'm not sure. But when a nurse invents a medical device, immediately the public knows that there's value in that invention, that patients are going to benefit from that the quality of life is going to improve. And that for me is the same message that I really say at every talk is letting nurses know that we have to capitalize on the momentum that started last year with the year of the nurse. Then we got our teeth kicked in with COVID, and it was certainly tough, but at the same time, it really highlighted nurse innovators. For me, I thought LinkedIn was a platform for people to look for work. I just got on social media 2-3 years ago, and I thought it was just a place where people were, submitting resumes or whatever. And in my ignorance, I never got on LinkedIn until I met somebody when I met Rebecca at that event. I had met someone, a nurse there, a CNO there that I wanted to reconnect with. And I saw that she was on LinkedIn. So I, created a profile and updated one, I think that I had, and made presentable so that when I found this person. But what I really found was essentially all of you, I believe. And I realized that I was a big fish in a little pond. I didn't know that there were nurse inventors. Nobody ever talked to me in nursing school about being a nurse inventor. No, it was the concept of me and being an inventor that there was no connection there. I didn't understand what that was like. I didn't understand the patent process. And then to get on LinkedIn and see everyone doing all of these things, I was a little fish in a big pond, which is where we should all strive to be. I've learned so much watching other people and how they carry themselves and the devices that they invented and the innovations that they changed. And it's easy to sit here on this platform and be like, hey, listen to me, I have all the answers. But the truth is I don't. I've just been watching and failing and learning. We need to do that. We need to have this community, of nurses. In addition to not knowing that there was LinkedIn, I didn't know that there were organizations like SONSIEL. I think it started after, I could be wrong, after I got on LinkedIn about almost 2 years ago. And there were other people and like people that I know, grew up with, never really lent a hand. It's always the people that you don't know. And when I got on LinkedIn, so many nurses reached out and it just let me know the importance of that nursing community. And we all have to have that goal. So when I got on LinkedIn, my promotion was CathWear, which is a medical underwear that's designed for patients that require the use of leg bags. Patients, when they have a leg bag post-procedure, whether it's bile or whether it's urine, the bag slides up and down the leg. Patients end up over tightening the straps, which become unsanitary. They're not thinking what we're thinking. Like, we know that anything that you tie on a human body is essentially a tourniquet, but they're just focused on this embarrassing moment and they want it to go away, right? As nurses, we want to make sure that, there's no pain, that the procedure went well, they have all their discharge instructions, the doctor's on call ready to help if there's any surgical complications. But then the patient gets home and they shut the door. Like, that's when life really hits them, especially when they're wearing a leg bag. So I was working in the operating room at a local hospital, and I had a vision for CathWear. The patient came in and he had a leg bag on, and I just said, well, why don't I was already in inventor's mode, and I decided to go to Walmart and buy some men's long underwear. Went to the arts and crafts store, and for 2 years, my stepmom, who's a seamstress, was making us units, and sending those out. That manufacturing process took a long time. And, to stop right there for a moment, I don't have a business acumen. Well, I do a little bit now, but I didn't then. And a lot of nurses, this may be a horrible generalization, but for lack of a better term, a lot of nurses don't. Like, we're clinically inclined, right? Like, we're emotionally tied to our careers and to the patients. I didn't want to open CathWear and build a brand, open a business and build a brand and all this other stuff. When I tried to license it, nobody wanted to manufacture an underwear, and it didn't matter that we had a patent or nothing like that. So I had to hire my weaknesses. I made a list of everything that I wanted to do, and I made a list of everything that I didn't want to do. And I essentially hired people to do the things that were weaknesses for me. So then as a company, we obviously everything has a weakness, but we have less weak areas because of that thought process of hiring the people that were strong in those areas. For example, my business partner, he has his master's degree in business, right? He wants nothing to do with nursing. He faints at the sight of blood. So me, I faint at the sight of a business plan. Like, I don't want anything to do with inventory and negotiating contracts and things like that. And him and I together, we work extremely well. I don't know how to set up websites and online marketing and things like that. So we had to go out and hire somebody for that. And CathWear has been really successful because of the innovative design, removing the straps. Now the patient puts on the underwear, like a regular underwear. It replaces their regular underwear. They can wear skirt, they can wear dress, they can wear shorts, especially in the warm weather. Now we always see a spike in sales. And we have a 4.5-star rating on Amazon. I mean, from doctors, from nurses, from caregivers, but most importantly, from patients themselves. And that speaks to the benefit of a nurse inventing it, because there are other competitors, and I would never disparage somebody else's invention, because I believe they're all unique in their own way. Yet at the same time, none of the competitors were invented by a nurse, and it shows. It seems like it was a patient or a caregiver that solved one problem. And that's why nurses, I'm telling you, man, I even getting the goosebumps on my arms. We can't emphasize it enough. We see things that other people just don't see, and we also evaluate things that other people don't, because of our intimate relationship that we have with patients. There's value in that. For example, with CathWear, I designed it so it encompassed all drains, because I didn't want somebody to come after me and then make a modification to cover other drains. And only a nurse could have seen that concept on how to build that. I would never say anything about doctors and try. It would be unprofessional of me to try to say that what they're doing is not what we're doing, because they're doing their own thing and they're inventing their own surgical tools and things like that. But the workaround, which I believe every nurse has invented some sort of workaround in a clinical setting, that's the invention. Right. And for a while, I would, get in a room with, with surgeons, doctors and things like that. And at first it was very intimidating for me to pitch CathWear, because, imposter syndrome is very real. And for me, I was like, oh, it's underwear. Like, it's not really the cure for cancer. Like, how much of an impact am I really making? But that's the wrong way to go into it, because you're solving a problem and that's it. Whether it's $1 trillion a year in revenue, or whether it's $100 a year, it's about the patient. And that has to be the focal point. If you chase money, that's all you're going to get. It's just money. And the world has proven that there's not much happiness in money. Now, if you use your passion to change to chase a solution for a problem, there's so many doors that end up opening up for you. And that's really how I approach CathWear. I built a team, I hired my weaknesses, I built an innovative design based on clinical experience, and I didn't quit. And the emphasis is on quit, because CathWear is my second invention. My first invention, I quit on it because I started listening to people in my life at that time. I was seeking approval from others, which that never benefits anyone. And our 2-month-old at the time, he couldn't breathe. His nasal passage was blocked, and that little blue thing they give you in the maternity ward, that thing has like no suction, right? So we actually thought that he was going to die, that he was going to not be able to sleep in the middle of the night, and it was some very long nights. So I went into the operating room. I grabbed the yank hour, the suction tubing off the wall, and I cut a long piece of tubing, and I brought it home, and I said, let me see if this will work. So I covered one side of his nostril, and I put the yank hour on the outside, and I sucked the mucus out, but I cut the tubing really long so that the mucus would stay trapped in the tubing, and then I just rinse it out with warm water. And he slept like a baby, pun intended. So I was like, oh, maybe I should put an engine on the end of this like a little motor with different settings, and it can be like a suction device. And, you know, I was showing it to people because we naturally want people to say, oh, that's great, but you're the expert. You have the PhD in your invention. Like nobody knows CathWear. There's not a person alive that can pitch CathWear in the way that I can. There's somebody that can go through all the steps, but it's different when it's coming from you. Well, the final step of that failure was I showed it to his pediatrician, and she was very, very discouraging. Told me, you know, it's going to cost thousands and thousands of dollars, and you know, the FDA is not going to approve it because it goes in the nose. And I was like, no, 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 but it doesn't go in the nose because it has a bulb and it sits outside and it's safe, which is why you have to defend your innovation sometimes and to help people understand. And she was just very discouraging, and a patent takes a long time and yada, yada. Well, 2 years later, I think 1 or 2 years later, one of the people that told me that it was a stupid invention, I saw it on the shelves at Walmart and sent me a picture of it. And now it's being sold everywhere. Like when I go into Target sometimes or Walmart, I'll go and I'll look at it. And I have a picture of it on my phone, and I actually put it in one of the pages of my new book that I wrote, Let It Flow. And I have it on my phone. And anytime I want to quit, I just look at that picture, you know, because somebody, it's motivation now. But because I wasn't in the right mind at that time in my life, I quit. And I believe that a lot of nurses quit. I just know it. I know that the process is long, and most people don't want to embark on that journey. And I think if we shift the focus of versus being successful, you know, being known as an inventor and making money and all of those other things, if we focus on the patient, we'll never quit, because there's something inside of a nurse that just says keep going when it's about the patient. I know we've all experienced that. You know, after CathWear, I invented a surgical clip as well that I licensed off. You know, and I would like to say that it's been a really great professional journey. And I'm very thankful for this next part that I want to share. The founders of SONSIEL asked me to reveal a tough time in my life, and I've never done it in a professional setting. But I was addicted to alcohol and cocaine for 20 years, and I almost took my life about 7 years ago. I went through a horrible divorce, and just everything really just came crashing down. I had already invented CathWear, and I had the patent and everything, and it was just I had to sit on the shelf. I was in a 4-year nursing program, and I had to leave for 2 years from the nursing program, and I was sitting in my living room one day, and I was going to take my life. And my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, showed up in my living room in a vision, and asked me for another opportunity. And I decided to just live my life, living for something that I didn't think it was real. I never thought that God was real. And you know, that's my motivation as well, that whether CathWear is successful or not, it doesn't define me. And I'm not married to the outcome of my business ventures. And it gives me motivation to pursue forward, you know, knowing that eternity awaits us all, and that I'm forgiven for my sins is something that it really set me free. And it allowed me to be an effective leader. It allowed me to do a lot more things, knowing that there's no more time clock. Um, some of the founders of SONSIEL know that I wrote a book about it. It's called From Cocaine to Christ. And Let It Flow is my second book. And the reason why I think it's important to share that on this platform is not really to talk about myself. It's to highlight this part. The same way that I didn't know that there were a lot of people on LinkedIn that were doing a lot of great things for patient care, is the same way that I believe a lot of people don't know that somebody's suffering from addiction, that somebody's suffering from a vice, right? And we have this horrible stigma that we think that addiction is only drugs and alcohol, as it was for me. But sometimes people they're addicted to food, they're addicted to shopping, right? They're addicted to things that are very unhealthy, that really hinder the ability for you to run a business. CathWear sat on the shelf, the patent sat on the shelf for 2 years. That's part of the reason why it's taken me so long to get here now. And I just wanted to share that in case there's anybody here that's struggling with addiction, or if anyone else knows of anyone as well. Maybe you have a different way of reaching sobriety, but for me, it was coming essentially into the presence of God. And again, I'm very thankful for the founders of SONSIEL for giving me an opportunity to let both worlds crash together today. It's certainly not a secret because I wrote a book about it. But I do try to keep it separate. That's my motivation. My motivation is now I want to help other nurses. I want to help nurses rise above whatever they're going through. Because if I invented CathWear when I was half in the bag, then you guys should be able to reach your goals and your dreams as well. I'm very thankful for being here today. This is a very prestigious organization. I'm thankful for all the listeners that are here as well. I'd like to open it up for any questions or anything that SONSIEL has planned. But I certainly don't want to take up all the time that you have planned for today, talking about my journey. But at the same time, I'm very passionate with everything that I do. The last thing I'll say is a friend of mine said to me one day, you have an addictive personality. And I thought that was just something that people just said. I didn't think that it was real. And she kept telling me, you should really look that up. You have an addictive personality. And I looked it up one day, and what I found is that some of the people that are on the Fortune 500, they have addictive personalities. And that's when I knew that I had the tools. I was just redirecting it into the wrong area. And once I realized that I could take this addictive personality and channel it in the right area, it really it helped me grow, because I knew that I had time. I knew that I had energy, and I've transferred that over into CathWear. And that's why, Rebecca, when we met, and then from now, I'm sure that you'll see that there's a stark contrast there, and it's because of that. I just want to help patients. And now I want to help nurses. That's why I wrote that book, Let It Flow, because I want to talk about the things that I did that I failed at as a leader. I failed a lot in CathWear because I was leading with my emotions. Nurses are emotionally inclined. And in the business world, it's catastrophic to lead like that. My business partners, they don't care about patient care. They don't care about the patient that called me crying. People don't care about that, right? When I want to sell to a hospital, the CNO loves it, but the person that's writing the checks, they don't care about those things. And there's a balance there. And that's why I wrote that book, is to talk about how I failed and how I don't want somebody else to fail. It's really why I wrote both of my books, really. But thank you. Thank you
Brian,
for listening.
Brian, that was amazing. Thank you for sharing. It was a tough story, but we're all giving you a group hug right now.
Lots of comments in there, Brian.
Yeah.
I'm a nurse, so I could cry at the drop of a hat. I'm surprised we put it together.
And we can open
But
it up now.
I was also very comfortable because I knew that I was speaking to a bunch of nurses as well, and you would be sympathetic with me. So thank you.
That says a lot. Thank you.
And so who has some questions? Yeah, for Brian. Who has some questions and thoughts on this? Because I mean, it's incredible. You can come off mute and go ahead and jump in. Mary Lou.
Yeah, I have one. Sure. Thank you, Brian. That was really, so inspiring. And I just love the energy that you have when you're sharing your story. One of the questions that I have was around you talk about failures, which is a part of the process. You said you quickly fail, move on, move on. What was probably your biggest learning? Could you give an example of where you thought you had your biggest learning through the journey?
Yeah, it's the emotional side. I thought that my business partners, everyone that I hired, they're from my hometown because I believe in building a community. And a lot of us went to high school together, but we didn't see each other for like 20 years. So when we all linked back up, I thought that we were all going to be friends, and I used to push my emotions. As nurses, like we just we like you guys said, a group hug, right? Like if my business partners were here, they'd be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, you know what I mean? Like, ain't nobody group hugging around here. And that was my biggest failure, was separating the business side of it from, like, I don't text any of my business partners. When I first started, I'd be like, hey man, love you. Just wanted to tell you, thank you for the journey. Great job this week. And they wouldn't text back because we didn't make any sales that week. And I didn't understand that. And it took me like, 3.5 years to understand that they were here for something different. They weren't here to be my friends. They weren't. I was like, oh, we're gonna go on vacations together in a couple of years and this and that. And when I really was able to lead better was when I separated that. Now, when I contact them, it's CathWear related. Yeah, we have random conversations here or there, but it's always CathWear related, and I get a response. And again, it's certainly not. I'm not trying to promote the book because that's just it's petty, but I'm being serious. That's why I wrote it, because I kept saying to myself, like, do other nurses know that the way that we are, that it doesn't work in that world to some extent.
You guys, please jump in. I think when we do these meetups, we do that because for so long, the people that we always wanted to talk to were gatekeeped or behind a door or behind a glass or on a stage. And when they would step off, you never could catch them, right? So please jump in, because it's just so honored to have you, Brian, on these things.
Oh
And
no,
yeah, these
it's
are
fine.
amazing.
It's fine.
So yeah,
It's
you
fine.
guys.
And if somebody wants to, maybe, you have a question and you don't feel comfortable doing it here, you could certainly reach me on LinkedIn, and we can kind of speak offline a little bit.
Yeah, Brian, I just wanted to say thank you so much. I'm sorry, my name's Jane. I jumped in kind of late, so I didn't get to hear your entire story. But all I know is that I'm dying to look up CathWear and figure out, like, how can I get one, or how can I hear a bit more about your books? Know that we're a lot of us are here because of the hackathon and have ideas. So just hearing your story and hearing it come to light just inspires me to keep going with the idea that I have on the back burner. So thank you for sharing, and thank you for putting such a personal touch with it.
Yeah.
And it hits
Yeah,
home.
no, I mean, that's what we're here for. I'm a firm believer that the more transparent you are, the more effective of a leader you're going to be. I think, unfortunately for us, we live in this world where we have this facade, right? And especially with social media now, we have the ability to create the platform that we want so that people can see who we want them to be. But you're not going to be very effective for a long time, I believe. Nobody wants to talk about their failures, and the truth is, and that's one of the statements that I open my book with, is that you know we identify more in failure than we do in successes, and I don't know why that's so, and maybe you don't see that pattern, but I do. Right, when I talk about inventing something, nobody really like raises their hand and says, oh, me too. But when I talk about my failures, people go, oh my God, yeah, I know, or I know someone, or whatever. And that's why I think it's important for us to be transparent and just be real to reach people. Like I said, it was very difficult for me to talk about my past addictions here on this platform, because everybody here that knows me, at least from LinkedIn, but then it the founders of SONSIEL saw that there was value in that, and I agreed with them, because sometimes we just look at the final product and then we wonder why it's not happening to us. But the reason why it's not happening is because you're just not pushing through the tough times. You're not pushing through your goals. It's not easy. It's not easy. But we're obligated as nurses. We're obligated to push innovations forward. We have to push our ideas forward for the patients.
Brian, that's such a good point too, because if you're afraid to fail, you can't create anything. You can't take a chance. So you have to be willing to fail.
Yeah, you do. And I mean, fail like over and over and over. I mean, when I was sitting in my living room, contemplating suicide, and I have a vision of Jesus Christ sitting in my living room, I never would have thought this is going to be in a book, because it was something so what the world says is wacky, like, and it was so private. And then I just said to myself, like, are there other people out there struggling with addictions, that are suicidal, right? Suicide rate, which nobody talks about it, especially with COVID, is through the roof, because of all these things that are happening, and again, I never saw myself on this type of a platform. I never saw myself on this international stage, if you will, as a nurse inventor, which I didn't even know nurse inventors existed.
Deirdre, you have a question?
Yeah. Hi, Brian. Thank you for sharing your story today. And I just this children in the background. So I'm sorry, everybody. That's our Zoom live. But
That's okay.
I just wanted to also kind of reaffirm, like, that inspiration came at the right for me today. And so just to reaffirm your belief in the higher power, I was on a meeting where we're trying to develop a new program, and it hasn't been working. It's been failing. And those were the words that came out. And some people want to quit, and some of us want to keep going and shift it. And we're still working on it, but it was just like, yep, it's failing. And my fear that people are going to give up. But we're not yet. So there's still a little bit of, and so many days I'm like, why am I even doing this? I'm just wasting so much energy trying towards something that I don't, maybe it's not even a problem anymore. No, but so thank you for all of that and the failure. And yeah, that was today. So thank you very much.
No problem. The desire to quit, I don't think it ever goes away. What grows is the motivation. One of my business partners that I started with, he added some of the features to CathWear. He wanted to pursue, more certifications in critical care nursing. I don't know if you remember him, Rebecca, but it was Hector, which is not Edwin by default. And I didn't understand why he would leave the project. I didn't understand why he would leave, what we started. And sometimes my business partners, you have to celebrate small victories, right? Like when I do get those calls from patients, I'm motivated, and I realize that I don't have to then, that motivation is for me, right? Revelation is for the receiver. You're not going to always, the people don't have that same motivation to solve the problem that you have. And Deirdre, like you said, you want to quit, but there's something that drives you, and that's the passion of being a nurse, where you just want to see it through. We're problem solvers, we're thinkers, we're innovators, we're inventors. And that's the time that we're in now. And that's why SONSIEL is what it is. And that's why this platform is what it is, because it's that time where we need to make this stand in the healthcare field for all patients. And it's always going to require not quitting. I quit on my first one. Don't be like me, because you're going to see your invention on the market at some point. And somebody said to me, it was very humbling. God has an amazing way of humbling you when you're getting too big for your britches. And somebody said to me, you know what? Somebody else invented CathWear. Like, you weren't the one that invented CathWear. They just quit. And it just so happened that you didn't quit. And I believe that to be true with my surgical clip that I invented. I believe somebody else has probably thought of it at some point. But we get ideas, and then we say, Oh, great idea. Yeah, let's just go to lunch. And then it's done. It's a lot of steps. We're covered by Medicare. That was a long process. We're registered with the FDA. Long process. I'm a US veteran. So we're certified, a certified veteran-owned company. Long process. You know, it's like I said, I've yet to make $1 from CathWear. But if somebody sees me, they'd see, man, this guy's so happy. His business is he must be doing this or doing that. But it's not. It's the patients. It's the patients that I talk to when I go on Amazon and I see the reviews, and I hear them, and that has to be our goal.
Debbie, question. You had your hand raised. Yep, you can come off mute.
So Brian, I want to thank you for opening up your talk by saying that breaking the illusion of being an inventor, somebody of your high status, and saying that you're not bringing any money home, pretty much, because you're putting the money back into the business. And that's one of my struggles as a business entrepreneur, nurse, because the profits are there, but not quite like the other people I would join or be a part of business coaching groups. And these women are just so high powered, like multi-million dollars, blah, blah, blah. And, you talked about the imposter syndrome and being a nurse and keeping your emotions in check and making sure that you're, separating yourself. So I feel like a lot of the money that my company has made is put into the company, and also educating myself on the business principles and how to carry myself so that when I'm on as a CEO of my company, as a thought leader, because otherwise on the books, but and like you said, the purpose and also the meaning behind what we do and what drives us is actually, what helps us get over the multiple mini pains that we have to go through.
Yeah, and you said it. I like the way you said that, multiple mini pains. For me, I see you smiling over there, Rebecca. I know that or maybe many of you know. Listen, I personally, I haven't mastered it. I don't think it's possible to master it. If you have, bravo. The balancing of life and family. Debbie, I see you, nodding your head. Like, it's either I hate to use this word because it sounds horrible, but you're either neglecting your family or you're neglecting the company, right? I don't think that you're able to hold both of them up, depending on what you're doing at high value. There are times that I'm not there, for the family, and then there's times when I'm not there to answer an email or do a Zoom call or whatever. I had to understand the hard concept. I remember one time through this process, Debbie, to speak directly about what you're talking about, I was like, you know what, I've been doing this a long time, and I want to get some sort of compensation, even if it's a couple $100s a week. And my business partner, he just has a great way to communicate. He says, yeah, okay, we can do it. If you want a paycheck, Brian, we can do it. But what bill are we not going to pay? How much inventory are we going to get less? And I was like, no, I'm like, I want inventory. I want the bills paid, and I want $300. Like, that's why we need help as nurses, because we can't do it with that thought process. And I had to learn to find other ways to satisfy myself along the journey. And nothing satisfies a nurse more than knowing that you're impacting healthcare, knowing that you're helping patients. And people say it all the time, oh, why didn't I think of that? Or why didn't I think of that? Every business idea, somebody always says, well, why didn't I think of that? And the truth is you're not the one that thought about it. You're just the one that didn't quit.
Rushma.
Yeah, Brian, I just wanted to say that you had that idea of the suction of the nose, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I had, for a long time, always said that we need to find a way to pick a baby's nose. Do you know that exists also?
No, but you're making it worse.
Invention, and it's really interesting that you just said that, because I had worked with special needs children and things like that. And I always said that there are times when it's not even about suction. It's about like putting a finger in there and picking it. And then I had my baby, like I was saying before, I had a baby 3 months ago. And I said, I really wish I had invented it right now. And sure enough, we're in Bye Bye Baby. It exists. And of course, I'm kicking myself that I never did it.
I'm telling you, somebody's going to invent your idea, and it's a horrible feeling. And then the person that sent me the picture, like I wanted to be like, I knew, but you know what? It's not that person's fault. It's my fault for seeking validation. And I get it. We all do it, right? We wear an outfit and we say, how do I look? You get a haircut and you say, how does my hair look? But you get to a point where you just have to know, like, however my hair looks, like, this is my head, it's my haircut, like, however the dress looks or the suit looks or whatever, you just have to go forward. And seeking validation in any area of life is always difficult. And I know it in my heart, I just know it, that a lot of nurses have so many ideas in them. And it's not easy. It's endurance. It's a long race. Like when I got on LinkedIn, and probably a lot of you are connection requests on LinkedIn, but it's because like I was sending 100 connection requests on LinkedIn a day. I just wanted to connect with as many people as I could and try to see what LinkedIn was really all about. And in turn, I ended up meeting a whole bunch of great people that are doing they're not doing, but created their own lane. A lot of nurse entrepreneurs that took what they were doing in a hospital, getting an hourly wage, that now do it on the road or whatever. And this is the time. There's such a huge focus, like a visual focus, that everybody is just looking at nurses, as heroes and all these other titles or whatever. But we have to capitalize on that, not for a monetary gain, but for a advancement of healthcare gain.
Well, Brian, everything you said, I mean, I just love all the incredible information that you're sharing. And I think what, you guys, I'm just so glad Brian's here. I just bought your book. I know I should probably not say it, but I'm really excited to read it.
That's okay.
So I totally am. I just went on Amazon and I'm just so excited.
Thank you.
But I want you guys to jump in here and, if it's not a direct question for Brian, it's something that you need. Let's open up the floor. Like, tell us what you're working on. Like, let us help you. SONSIEL believes, and I think nurses get in the way of this sometimes, the rising tide, the more nurses who are successful, the better it's going to be for all of us. And we want you to be so successful. I hope if it's a millionaire or you're saving 1 million lives, we just want you
That's
to be
good.
successful, right? So
Yeah.
What we today, Mary Lou and Rachel and I spent some time drawing an image, and one of those is these catalytic connections that have been happening through these meetups where people have started companies or they've got help and they've moved it forward. So we'd love to hear some of that if that's happened for you, but also literally, what do you guys need and how can we help? So who has a question that is bothering them that they don't know what to do with? We do have an attorney on the phone. Yeah,
I wanted to share something that was triggered as you were speaking. The money aspect, you can't stop because you don't have money. There are accelerator programs like pitch competitions. I love doing pitch competitions, and I won most of them, but I didn't win them all, right? Like, you're not supposed to win them all. But I love entering those contests. I've generated a lot of free money for CathWear by doing those things. A lot of small business loans as well, especially after COVID. This is the time to start applying for those things because they're just giving it out. And friends and family, when you invent something and you, like I said earlier, it's if it's a nurse, people want to invest in that. People believe in that. There's a lot of ways to get money where you don't really need necessarily investors. Angel investors, they come in and they're a lot smarter than me, at least. And they take a big piece of your company without you even knowing. But I believe that in networking researching the accelerator programs in your community, there's ways for you to generate revenue. Revenue is always needed in these types of projects. So I just wanted to share that.
Ellen, did you have something you wanted to say?
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Hi, Brian. Love the story. Awesome motivation for me right now. Just the emphasis on not quitting. So I don't currently have a product, but I do have a service for nurses, and I am a newbie in this game. I started in 2019. I'm still pivoting. At first, I was helping patients, and now during COVID, I'm helping nurses move into like a wellness state, a mind, body, soul, health objectives. So I'm just wondering, do you have any tips for somebody that may be a newbie with maybe like mentoring or like getting myself out there? Because right now everything's social media, and I want to do things like more in person. That's where I feel like I do well in, like one-on-one. And so
Yeah,
any tips or something?
I do.
Get myself out there.
For me, I sometimes, let me use this analogy. I love a good analogy. I don't know if this one is a good one, but it's certainly my best attempt. If you want to be an astronaut, that's great, but you have to make it to math class, right? And sometimes we want to be, so far ahead from where we are that we realize that where we are right now is where the abundance is. So to answer your question directly, start in your own community and find all of the resources that you can. And once you've worked in that small space of where you are, for example, I met Rebecca in my hometown. I didn't meet her, in Wyoming or whatever, if people even live in Wyoming anymore. But, that's what you have to do. You have to start in where you are and then start to work your way around. Find out if there's other nurses that are doing what you're doing. Start networking with them. Invest time in, I know with COVID, everything's a little shaky, but see if somebody you can invite out for a coffee so you're not bouncing things off of them via Zoom, maybe that physical contact as well. So that would be my recommendation is to start small. You don't have to stay small, but it's always good to pay attention to the details, and the details are always right around you.
That's great. Thank you. I'm trying to get, more in person, and that's what I want to do eventually, but I'm just trying to make, time with, what I have, like you said, and that starts with where I'm at within my circle, and I'm growing.
Yeah,
so I appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And don't quit. Don't quit. No matter what, don't quit. It's the world will tell you, quit. It's really not going to work. Again, the product that I quit on is on the shelves, and I don't want it to happen to anyone.
Hey, this is Chris. I'd like to add to some feedback around how to get in person. So I don't know if you guys have heard the saying, but the riches are in the niches, right? So you want to make sure that what you're doing in your area really has niched down, even probably more than you already are. So wellness and nurses, a lot of people are doing wellness and nursing right now. So what can you own in that wellness and nursing space that other people aren't doing, and that fills a gap is one thing. And then the second thing, in terms of getting in front of people, we're still in the middle of COVID, so a lot of people are not doing the face-to-face, but there's a lot of other platforms you can use. So some examples are collaborations on Clubhouse. So reaching out, getting on Clubhouse, getting into those nursing groups, start speaking so people can hear your value and they can hear your name. Look at Marian Leary has a really awesome list of nursing podcasters. Pitch yourself to those podcasts. What can you offer to their audiences so that people can hear your voice and get to know your name? So start looking for areas where you can get onto other people's networks so that people see and identify you as, hey, that's the lady that does nursing wellness in this niche. That's the go-to. And then from there, you'll be able to expand beyond that niche and go into the entire wellness system. But you want to start off really niched down so that we know you as a content expert when something, in that area pops up.
Amazing advice. It's amazing that Irene's so good. It's such a
Thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate that. She's awesome. I love your podcast.
Thanks. Call me. I'll get you on.
Yeah. You see, you just networked. You gotta speak up, man. You gotta speak up.
Thank
You don't
you.
even
gotta
have to
speak
for
up.
people call your people.
That's right.
Got you. Thank you so much.
Kelly, did you have something you wanted to say? No. Ayla, that's what I thought for Carol.
I see Damaris has her hand up.
Oh, good, please.
Oh, not me. Good to see you guys though.
Hi, it's Damaris. I apologize. I have a baby in the background. I just wanted to tell little is her name Fallon? That you're welcome to be on my podcast. I do a lot in nursing stuff, so you can always reach out to me anytime. So I've been in this space, in the wellness space, for a very long time. So always reach out to me on that end, especially if it's on sale. So anytime.
Hey guys,
thank you, Debbie. I will be reaching out.
Yeah,
I'm
drop
doing
in your
it. Sorry.
LinkedIn profiles, guys.
Yeah.
If we don't, drop in your emails if you're comfortable, and share those with people, or private message them if you feel more comfortable doing it that way. But please do. You know, the more nurses out there speaking on everybody's podcast are the best that we can do. So I love that. So it's fantastic.
Sorry, I'm putting baby to bed. Apologize.
You know, so podcasts are part of the innovation process that nursing is seeing, because it's a megaphone for innovation, and those podcasts, it's equivalent to CathWear, it's equivalent to brain surgery, the cure for brain cancer. That's part of it. That's part of the team.
All right, who else has a pain point that they're not sure of where they're going, or something they want to talk about, or need help with a connection, right? Like, that was great. We already have Fallon connected for podcasts and loving all this, but who else? And Debbie was just on Damaris's podcast, and awesome, you guys. Yeah. We can always give updates. I think we go to 8:30, right, Ham? Technically, we can always wrap. It's very unusual for us to wrap early, but
yeah, it's whatever the group needs.
I'm going to tell you guys, this is potentially our last hackathon with Microsoft and J&J coming up the weekend of May 14th through the 16th, at least virtually, right? And that's a big deal. And that is, I'm going to ask for your guys' help. This hackathon is to bring together all of those nurses who had those ideas, those things that Brian just explained during COVID and didn't know where to go, because we opened it up. That has anything to touch with care, we want to come into this hackathon. And one of the most exciting things about this hackathon, and to everybody's point, was most of us go and we start innovating, we don't know what to do next. And behind the scenes, SONSIEL has been working double time to find a university that would invest in nursing as educators, and not as educators, but as innovators. And to be honest, we had a long time trying to find some organization who would recognize to invest in nursing, and finally Drexel stepped forward, their School of Entrepreneurship stepped forward and said, we will partner with you to put together the first nurse innovation entrepreneurship certificate out of a school of entrepreneurship in the United States. The weekend of June 5th and 6th, I believe, is that weekend. And that will be you will see there's a lot of people on this call that are going to be participating as actual faculty in it. But that course is going to be about $700. But after negotiating with Microsoft and J&J, we're actually going to be looking for scholarships. And those who attend, we're hoping to raise 20 scholarships at the $1,000 level. Your company's name and logo and hyperlink will go up on Nurse Hack for Health. It will go up on SONSIEL, which we have and a thank you will go out to all 40,000 people who follow SONSIEL in our email. And we also just learned that it's also his name and hyperlink is going to go up on Drexel's website page there as well, which is a .edu. One. And if you guys don't know about SEO or anything, a link to a .edu from a hyperlink that comes out of a .edu is worth tens of thousands of dollars in SEO linkage directly. So for $1,000, if any of you guys have contacts that would want to be a supporter and provide a scholarship for a nurse to attend that we're not just saying winners, it's anybody who attends the hackathon and raises their hand and says, we want to go, we're throwing all the names in the hat. And how many scholarships do we have? We're pulling out of the hat. We're saying, show up in that June event. So if you know organizations who want to sponsor a scholarship, please reach out to me, please reach out to Faith or Hiam, and we are gonna try to get that across as everyone else. And if you also are somebody who wants to go, please reach out to us as well. We tried to keep it at a price point that was as affordable as we can get it with a major university behind it. But we're really excited about this because we think there's going to be a process here, and all those questions that you guys have that we try to answer here, we have put a ton of brain power. Hiam's going to be one of the lecturers in it. Mary Lou is going to be a lecturer in it, to try to make sure that that weekend is going to get access to the people you need to try to move that thing. So if you guys know anything, that's what's going to happen. But also, please please email your CNOs, please email your friends and say, if you have been waiting on the sideline, this weekend, you have to show up. And if you guys didn't hear it yet, our keynote speaker on Friday night is going to be the Assistant Surgeon General of the United States, Admiral Aisha Mix, who is the head of the entire public health department of the United States. She heard about innovation in nursing, and she fundamentally believes that nursing should be leading public health initiatives across the United States. And she's showing up that weekend to learn about you. And if there is a way forward that the public health department can invest further in nursing-led initiatives to transform the future of healthcare delivery across the United States. And if you want to meet her, she's going to be there, and she is remarkable. So I need every nurse with any dream in their life to show up that weekend, because I think this last hackathon is going to transform potentially the future of how this nation goes forward in addressing healthcare issues, because some of the highest levels of those out there making decisions are showing up that weekend. So if you guys could do us a huge favor, because as you know, nobody gets paid at SONSIEL, we all work full-time jobs, please email your friends, please email your bosses and tell them this is the event that if you have no money, it's free to attend, right? You're not doing anything for Nurses Week or Nurses Month at your institution. Encourage your nurses to go. So that's my plea to you guys. We really need some help. And please help us share it. So if you see it on social, if you see this, please, we're doing this thing, which is tag your it. Rushba, I tagged you last time. So if you guys see that post, Joshua, hey, Kelly Ayla for coming up with that genius idea, tag somebody you know who has to be there, and let's let this weekend go viral. So thank you for your help on that. And Fallon's going. All right, I took up, who else? Anybody else, thoughts, needs?
Hi. I just wanted to put it out there. I'm planning a potential move I live up north. I live in New Jersey, and I'm planning a potential move to Orlando. So I'm going to be looking for a new position. And I'm struggling a little bit with finding like the right positions to apply for, because I work in a more unique role, or I've worked in more unique roles. So any support in trying to pinpoint those more appropriate roles for myself. I kind of don't know how to do this now.
So if anybody is in Florida and you're looking for it, go ahead. Somebody was just going to jump in there.
No, I was just going to say, just let them know where you're moving to.
Oh, the Orlando area.
Anybody in Florida? Joshua, Joshua just got a new job. It took a while, right, Joshua?
Yeah, it took me months to do that. Many applications.
He was looking in COVID.
Yes. Well, actually, there's some key things out of there, right? So, to give everybody a little bit of background, of course, I'm a nurse. That's why I'm here, and I sort of went from the bedside, and I wanted to have greater impact. So I said, oh, I'll go do a master's of public health and a dual MSN MPH, so health leadership and public health sort of thing, thinking that I would go into public health and have a greater impact that way. Well, it turns out that I actually discovered tech and went into the University of Pennsylvania health system literally as a bedside nurse in home care, but only spent a few months doing that. Transitioned into a nurse informatics role that I got because I advocated for myself. I was like, look, this is my background. This is what my academic sort of credentials are, but this is really where my heart lies. I really, even if this is completely unrelated to bedside work. I really want to get involved in this, and this was the shift from the legacy EHR over to Epic. So that's how I got a nurse informaticist role created for me, and then moved into that, took the organization, home care and hospice, through that transition over to Epic. And then again, through a series of advocating for myself, like I became an Epic analyst and built the EHR. Then I was a product owner in the data analytics center. And the thing is, like, all of those are different titles, and you can't necessarily see the connection between all of those. So it became very apparent on my job search that I had to figure out what the role was that I was going to, and then figure out what the job description essentially looked like, what the roles responsibilities are, and then show how I had done those before in all of these other roles. Because the HR, let me tell you, HR is not your friend. I don't know if anybody on here is in HR or has worked in HR, but like, dealing with HR people, they are trying to make a match as best they possibly can, but they're not subject matter experts. And so they're not necessarily going to know how your skill set translates into this role that you're applying to. All they see is that you're a nurse and this is a tech job, and they don't see the connection there. And so you're going to get screened out, sort of thing. So I don't know what role you're going for, but my suggestion would be to map out what those skills are that you have and the roles that you've done and accomplished, and try and work those into some of your materials. So speak to the job role. I know that that's not super useful, or it feels frustrating. Trust me, when I got that feedback, it was very frustrating. It's like, I can't create 20 different versions of my CV. I'm sorry. I don't have time. Literally, I have 100 applications out there. I cannot afford to make a different version of all my materials for everything, but have a few versions, right?
Right. Yeah, I think
That was really helpful.
Just add to that, I think that reaching out to the right people in the organizations, and I agree. Like, if you can reach out to find the nursing leaders, especially if it's a different kind of position, if it's a position they may not even know that this is a role that you could bring to the organization. As a nurse, reaching out to nursing leaders, I think, is a really good recommendation.
How many of you guys, I just saw a survey, 40% of at least Americans right now, or those that are employed, are going to be looking for a new job in the next year. How many of you guys, is there a substantial amount of people on this call that are going to be looking for new opportunities in the next year? Are you guys feeling it? Okay, all right, there's a couple questions. It's just something to let us know. I'm going to let you guys know there has been some things brought up in SONSIEL that we may be trying to launch in a lot easier. We know that mentoring is one of them. And so we're trying to figure out a really easy way to connect people with potential mentors. There's been some good ideas that have been brought forward. So I want to let you guys know that might be coming, as simply that what we might be doing is having people sign up to say, hey, I'm interested in a mentor, and then we're gonna have people that say, I'm interested in being a mentor, and maybe identifying some skill sets and saying, here, you know what, here's sending to those who are looking to be mentored, here's the list, identify 3 who you think would be a mentor, and seeing if we could do that. We're not sure what that program is going to look like, but we know that for a lot of you guys, for everybody, just to all of us, that we're trying to do this as well. And Kelly, what are you saying you and Rhonda are trying to solve this problem? Which one?
This problem about exactly what is being discussed here, of how nurses need the ability to get their skills translated. So I'm working at it. It's in the background still.
I love it. And one of the things that I used to do for all my student nurses, I used to teach at a community college for 7 years, and community college nurses in Boston could not find jobs, right? Because they didn't have their bachelor's degree, and it drove me insane because I had all these rock star nurses doing this. So I spent a lot of time redesigning resumes, and that's how I started my first company, actually, which was Hire Nurses, which was I don't know how we didn't go bankrupt and all. How we didn't just to everybody's point, like we never learned how to make money. Faith was my wonderful savior on that, but we exited somehow, which is good to hear, but not for anything. But one of those things that we focused on was nursing profiles that were translatable, because as to that point, I never felt like anybody could find us any value. So I'm going to give you my quick tips that I spend a lot of time telling nurses I wish that I had done. You do a statement right at the top. Then you identify those bulleted points out, because very people are not going to look at. So if you're looking for a clinical job, at the top of your things, you go ahead and write down vital signs, catheters, all that stuff, and clean it out, especially if you're a new grad resume. But if you're looking for a different job and you're a nurse resume, right at the top of that, you're going to have to identify different skill sets that are going to find you valuable and bullet them out. Like, here's my core competencies. I know Excel, I know Teams, I know, here's my EHR competencies. Start listing those out in straight bullet points and then put your jobs underneath. It's a design that I don't see very much apart, but when I'm scanning and I see a lot of resumes right now, how many of you guys review, how many of you guys hire? How many of you guys hire teams? Okay, let's have a quick section here. How many of you read somebody's entire resume? Never. Okay, so let me be very honest. What do you read? Jump in here, Jane. Jump in here, Carol. You guys are saying you're hiring like I do. What do you actually look at to make hiring decisions?
I honestly glance at if it looks put together, or if it looks like sloppy, if there's typos, if there are like really short. I look at dates a lot. If there's like really like couple months here, couple months there, it's like, what's going on? Like, how are you explaining that? And then if there's something that's unusual, like I think something that's coherent with skill sets, it's like, that's something that I would grab onto. I don't necessarily care where you went to high school. I just want to know that you graduated. So yeah, and I'm usually more interested in talking to the person and seeing how they carry themselves. Cause if I was only hiring just based on resumes, I probably wouldn't have hired half the people I just hired. So yeah, but it's definitely just like, can you spell, are you able to put together a complete sentence? And can you format something that at least sticks out to give me a quick snapshot of what you've done?
Carol, tell us what you look at.
I would, oops, am I unmuted? Yep. I sort of look at some of the same things Jane did. If they've jumped a lot, there has been a lot of jumping lately, particularly with COVID and other things, but still, is there a thought process? Is there a pattern to that? And then there are so many resources to help you build a really great resume. And maybe we could do that here in terms of just how to make it dynamic so that it just grabs you. You've looked at the job, and yeah, you don't want to look at every job, as Josh was saying, and tailor your resume for it. But what's your goal? What's your purpose? If they don't have a goal and a purpose and a passion at the top of that resume, it's like, come on, tell me really why you don't, what is your goal? Because I hope it's aligned with our goal.
Yes, I love that. That one sentence at the top, exactly. Format it. I'm going to give you guys a quick hint. I didn't know this. You can download your LinkedIn profile into a resume. If you didn't know that, what I suggest you do right now is you go to LinkedIn, you update all of that, because that's your public facing, and then they just say format resume, and it formats into a resume. Did you know that? Were you raising your hand, Leanne? Yeah, go ahead.
So what I actually look at is the cover letter. And so I would suggest to you to think about, and you can tailor it to the roles that you're applying for too, but I actually always look at a cover letter. I do read the full CVs, I'm a geek that way, but the cover letter, in terms of, have you actually taken some time to think about the role that you're applying to as well? And also looking at, it's kind of like when you're applying for a grant too, in terms of what are the key words that you can match out your competencies, capabilities to the role that's at hand, just to build on what everyone else has said too, that to really sort of profile, why is it that you're not only competent for this role, but what's the uniqueness that you bring? So to spend some time on your cover letter. It doesn't have to be 3 to 5 pages, but beyond here attached is, I'm interested in this role and here's my CV. It's like, tell the reader why you are interested in the role. So that's just my only other suggestion to build on everyone else.
Pam, you just went through some hiring. What did you look at?
Pam or him?
You. Pam. Sorry.
You know what? I like.
I want to work for you.
Yeah, I like what you said. I highlight I like looking at all the highlights of what people can do. Operations and stuff. Just really list it out at the very front, and then you know, and then I look at the rest of the resume. But I do want to bring up a point that I think others were saying. I really, I think it's this generation that generally jumps every year or every 2 years to a different job. And unfortunately, I think more and more managers are not hiring when they see that. And I don't know if it's good or bad. I'm just saying that's sort of how people are feeling. Like it, you know, I was in a specialty care area, so to orient you took 6 months to a year, and then you leave the next year, it just wasn't sitting right. So keep that in mind, you know, be mindful of where you're going, how long it took you to get oriented, and then, you know, it's okay to change and get more experience, but do it in a very thoughtful manner, because I think it could hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'll let you guys know my resume is a disaster for that reason. I leave every 2 years. I hold on by my fingernails to stay 2 years, right? And in my last jobs, and I'm telling you guys as it's being recorded, but it's hard for me because I like change and I like doing new exciting things. And when things seem to stagnate, I know it's a problem. So I'll let you know I got called for a really big opportunity, huge opportunity, right? Like the person that was hiring called this company that I couldn't believe somebody would call and ask me to join their company, right? So we're talking and they're like, how long have you know, we love everything that you do and things like this. And I was like, oh, I know the question's gonna be. And I was like, well, you know, I'm not sure if I said, you know, I've only been at my current job like a short period of time, like under 2 years. And I said, and they're like, well, how long were you at your last job? And I was like, oh, 2 years. So I just have to let you guys know, it depends where you want to go. If you're going to want to go to the Fortune 500 healthcare companies, right? And you're going to leave the bedside or you stay at the bedside or wherever, or to be a nurse manager or a nurse leader, they do recognize a 4 to 5 year stint as somebody that becomes dependable. And that's hard for some of us, right? So I want you guys to think long and hard, because there is internal growth at places like you see what Hiam, if you haven't tracked Hiam's career, I suggest you go to her LinkedIn profile and watch what she's done at MGH and how she's done that and transferred the role. Mary Lou, I think you probably could speak to this really well as things. But also sometimes if you're really not happy, you just need to go to your boss and say, look, invest in me. I want to develop my career. Tell me what I can do to get to that next step. Like maybe I'm never going to be an entrepreneur and go leave my company, or you're going to do that on the side, but you still want to grow at your thing. You need to ask for those opportunities. And what I'm always surprised at is, and I saw a great quote. I have to give a shout out to Leah for this one. She made a quote: if you don't ask, the answer is always going to be no. So the thing is, you got to ask. And so Hiam, Mary Lou, Leanne, you guys are all nurse managers. How should a nurse approach you in the institution if they're at the bedside and they want to do more? Like how should they approach you in that situation?
First of all, I love that when people come to me and say, I'm bored, I can do more, do you have things? And I always find a way to do that. And then I will say to them, look, you know what? There's nothing else for you to do here. Come on, let's help you find somewhere else to grow. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So I think that open communication, if you're able to do that with your job, with your manager, that's another issue if you can't. But yeah, I love to see people grow. And I love that because that means, you know, they're just motivated and they're coming in with fresh perspectives and they want to do more. So I don't think anything's wrong with it. And if your leader thinks that, then you probably should leave.
Yeah, I think, you know, with us, we don't want any nurse in particular to leave our organization. We work really hard to get them. And so that's part of the messaging that we have with our teams is like, don't leave. If you're not happy, come forward. And let's find out what you're looking for. And so, and not everyone wants to go into management or wants to leave the bedside completely. So, but they are looking for more challenges. So, you know, we have all kinds of project work. We have all kinds of, we're open to, you know, change and trying out new things. And so just lots of opportunities so people can have a little bit of a difference. Like they don't want to do the same thing every day, but they'd like to have some mix. And then there's others who want to eventually be in my position or be in, you know, one of my colleagues' positions. So then, you know, what's that path look like for them? or maybe there'll be another different kind of, like, all my last 3 jobs have been jobs that weren't in the organization. It's just been, that I think the organization could really benefit from this type of role. And these are the reasons why. And then, luckily to have the opportunity to take on those roles within the organization. So shaping what you want to, I think, is important.
Andrea, you had an interesting jump. Why don't you talk about your jump? You did something really interesting.
Andrea, me?
Yes, you.
I did move a lot as well. I started as a labor and delivery nurse, and 15 years ago, I started in healthcare, in nursing assistant, medical assistant, research assistant, all the assistant. I've been the assistant of every assistant. And I've been moving on. Finally, I went to nursing school, got labor and delivery. Then I became a cardiac surgery research nurse, so nothing to do with labor and delivery. And that was a very big change. And like you said, another challenge. And after a year, I just found another opportunity. And HIAM actually was very helpful on, sponsoring me in the way of mentorship and finding a way of just translating those skills into quality, safety, and risk. So at the end, I didn't leave the organization. I stayed and I grew. So it was a great way to, find someone who was has been there for a long time, and finding ways. Okay, this is a great opportunity. How can we translate your skills? So for sure, find ways to find. And the other thing is, always find, always be strategic. What can I be doing in my current job that can give me the skills for the next step? So sometimes you do have to volunteer for things. You have to find committees and find, things that will give you those skills that maybe your current job didn't give you. So I did quality and safety in a lot of my other jobs. It wasn't my job, but I did it. So that, that experience through the years gave me the job I have now. So just something to think about.
There was a question on how do you explain the movement as well if you have moved a lot? I had a great conversation with the Chief Innovation Officer of Deloitte the other day. Her name's Jennifer Radden. She's been a friend of mine for a long time, and she oversees the entire healthcare division in the United States. We were talking, and she explained to me that there is an old Chinese mantra about the cycle of where people like to be, and that they are tied to the cycles of wood, which is very stable, and water, which is fluid, and fire, which is craziness. And we were talking, and she said to me, I think you're a fire person. And I was like, I think I'm a fire person too. And so how do you say that to your same thing, like if you're looking, like I've had a lot of change. And the thing is I think that there's terms that people are getting more comfortable with. I'm sort of a builder. I like to come in and do these projects. I'm very, and build. I'm not going to say it translates well to the big organizations, right? So I think if you find that you like that change, you're going to have to find how you've been strengthened, talk about what your skill sets are in those short periods of time, make sure you well document what your accomplishments were, speak to the team, and you got to quantify them. If you were able to go to an organization and for the time that you were there, you were able to say, hey, the stock price of my organization went up 600%. I participated in these 25 things. I built these teams. We hired this many people. You're going to have to speak to actual outcomes to be able to quantify what you've been able to do. But I think to Hiam's point, you may also have to say, look, I know that I've moved around a lot. I'm at that point in my career where this next move means that I'm there for 5 years. I'm there at minimum. I'm looking for my home. And I needed all these experiences to find out what I wanted, and now I'm focused. It's not going to be an easy one, but if you make sure at that top of your resume that you can, to Hiam's point, bullet it all out and easily see it, and people capture it, and you're able to bring that skill set forward, and they're like, maybe she is it, or maybe he is it. I would look at it that way. We're almost at time.
I was just going to say one more thing, and I think Andrea didn't. She's very humble, but before she moved on, we talked a lot about how she could help the current manager not lose any more people, right? She was very professional about it. She she gave her the opportunity to make it better. And she was afraid that that manager would be upset. But what she said was, you know what, this is really good for you. This move is good for you. And what Andrea learned was another skill set on how to manage up and over. And these are things that you have to learn too. But she was open, she was honest, you know, and, you know, we talked through how do you want to present what needs to improve in that unit. So, yeah. Anyway.
You know what? I think this is, to your point, we should be having a conversation on this. Maybe one of our next meetups. You guys, we're probably going to suspend meetups for June, July, and August, just to let you guys know, because I think everybody needs a break for the summer, but maybe not in June. I want to give you one last thing, but we should bring these into it because I think people are going to start looking to change. Mary Lou, Paul Coignet, do you guys want to give a sneak peek to what's going to be coming up? All right, so you guys know we have Hackathon in May. Then the first weekend of June, we have the Drexel program, and then in some really exciting news, Mary Lou and Paul Coignet have been working behind the scenes on something that we think is going to be awesome. So why don't you guys give us a quick rundown of that?
Sure, Mary Lou, I owe you some stuff too. I apologize. I'll have it shortly for you. We're working on it together. I'll have it this weekend. But we're going to have a pitch event where we invite 3 to 5 companies. We're still determining the number, 4 or 5 companies probably, of nurse-led founders who have advanced sort of past the minimum viable product stage or the MVP stage to pitch their event, pitch their product, and we'll have a panel of venture capital groups and investors who potentially will invest. And it'll be open to all of us to also watch and see how that dialogue occurs and to see some of the things that the VCs are looking for. We've done a lot. SONSIEL has done so much with the hackathon. We really wanted to showcase a few nurse companies that are sort of at that next stage so that people can know what happens after a hackathon.
Yeah, so this will be mid-June, and I think like what Paul said, it'll be for those companies, but it's also for this whole network in SONSIEL, or nurses wanting to go into this space to come and listen and learn, because it'll be a virtual event. So I think it'll be a great opportunity for everyone to see what that next step is after your idea is developed.
And so just to let you guys know, these are companies that are going past seed fundraising. It means that they're actually pitching real venture capital firms that are going to ask very tough questions. These people are going to be raising somewhere between probably $1 and $5 million in their next round. And these are venture capitalists who are used to asking the really tough question. This is not a softball event. This is if you are going to go and build a company and you plan that you're going to raise funds and you want to hear how venture capitals ask the questions and ask for a pitch and see how these decks are put together to raise that money. It's just time. It's time. I remember the first time I pitched a venture capitalist, and he looked at me and he said, "Rebecca, I want you to come back and pitch me like a man the next time you talk to me." And let's put it that way. I never raised money, but I wish I had no idea what he was talking about. So this event is for people that have already gone through their seed funding. They have an operational business that's up and going, but they need that next round of funding to move them. And these VCs want to be the ones to invest in these nurse-led ideas. And so again, there'll be 3 to 5 of them. It's going to be an awesome evening. So as soon as we get this confirmed, we're going to get the date on the books. If you guys know of companies that are looking for, I don't know, maybe even less than that, Paul, maybe we're looking for a 500. I don't know what the range is. Looking for that round of funding. It cannot be pre-seed raise, guys. And I'm not sure if the companies can be pre-revenue yet either. That will be a determining factor. But also that we are only opening it up to those who are members of SONSIEL, because we do believe that these VCs are going to take the companies that we put forward very, very seriously for investable purposes. So I don't know what our 100% criteria is, but hopefully you guys will figure. What are you thinking, Paul?
That's what I owe Mary Lou. I still am deciding. That's what I owe her. I'm going to do it this weekend. But yeah, it'll definitely be, like you said, post seed of revenue generating product that is ready to raise substantial capital.
And then we'll all want to know those people that made that money and tell us it. So anyway, this is also, I want to give a special shout out to Rachel and Mary Lou. We're coming up with this new infographic on what SONSIEL is, on the ecosystem of SONSIEL. I wish I could share it with you today, but you guys are going to see it come out. It's going to be all the touch points that SONSIEL is doing. We really think that we know who we are as an organization going forward. So outside of showing up at the hackathon, please invite a friend. We know it's not quantity, it's quality, and you guys are it. So we are 2 minutes past. We're going to see you guys for the meetup, one more meetup in May before the hackathon. And from now on, let's just get on social and blow it up. And so we look forward to seeing you guys at 1 p.m. Awesome. Ciao, everybody. We're signing off.